Have you ever felt like your relationship with your adult children is slowly slipping away? Are your phone calls becoming shorter and your visits less frequent? If so, you're not alone. Many elderly parents face the heart-wrenching reality of growing distance from their children, and the problem might not be what you think. What if I told you the words you're using could be the hidden culprit behind this emotional gap? In today's video, we're diving into the 5 toxic phrases that many parents unknowingly use, which might be silently destroying their family relationships. These phrases may seem innocent at first, but the truth is, they're eroding the very foundation of your bond with your children. And believe me, the second phrase I'm about to reveal is so damaging that it could potentially make your children cut you off for good. Why should you keep watching? By the end of this video, you'll not only understand which common expressions to avoid, but you'll also discover healthier alternatives that can bring you closer to your children. I'll share real-life stories of families who turned their relationships around by eliminating these harmful words, and how you can do the same. If you're tired of feeling abandoned or misunderstood, if you want to strengthen your connection with your adult children, or if you just want to avoid making communication mistakes that could push them away forever, then this video is a must-watch. Stay tuned, because I'm about to show you how simple changes in the way you speak can rebuild your family bond and create lasting, meaningful connections. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Toxic phrase 1. After everything I've done for you. Have you ever felt a deep sense of hurt and frustration, as if your sacrifices have gone unnoticed by your adult children, and found yourself blurting out this heart-wrenching phrase, "After everything I've done for you"? Trust me, you're not alone in feeling that way. The overwhelming weight of feeling unappreciated can be incredibly painful, and it's all too easy to fall into this emotional trap. But here's the truth. Although it may feel like a cry for validation or recognition, this phrase is one of the most toxic forms of emotional manipulation that parents can use, and it's far more damaging than you might realize. Relationship psychologists, who have spent years studying family dynamics, strongly advise against this kind of language. They explain that such words do far more harm than good. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, a respected family therapist at Northwestern University, sheds light on the consequences of using this phrase. According to her, when parents say, "After everything I've done for you," they unintentionally turn their relationship with their children into a transactional one. It's as if they're keeping score, expecting something in return for every act of care or love they've shown. And while it may feel justified in the moment, this approach creates an unhealthy and toxic dynamic that breeds resentment instead of gratitude. To truly understand the impact of this, consider the story of Gregory, a 76-year-old retired accountant from Phoenix. Gregory, like so many of us, had poured his heart and soul into raising his son, making sacrifices along the way to ensure his future success. But over time, he began to feel a growing distance between them. His son would barely answer his calls, and when they did have rare moments together, Gregory couldn't help but bring up all that he had done for his son in the past. "After everything I've done for you, the least you could do is call me once a week," he said during a dinner, expecting a reaction. But his son, instead of being filled with guilt or gratitude, exploded. The emotional toll that Gregory's words had taken on him became too much to bear. In that moment, his son revealed how these guilt-laden comments had been pushing him further and further away for years. Gregory, utterly devastated and blindsided, realized too late that his attempts to stay connected had only been driving his son further into emotional isolation. The guilt trips and emotional pleas had been harming their bond rather than strengthening it. With the help of a family counselor, Gregory finally began to see the destructive pattern he had been repeating. He learned the importance of expressing his true feelings, without attaching guilt or obligation. Instead of playing the scorekeeping game, He discovered how to communicate his emotions honestly and directly. A simple, heartfelt approach would have been far more effective. "I miss hearing your voice. I'd love it if we could catch up more regularly. Would a Sunday call work for your schedule?" This approach spoke to Gregory's need for connection while respecting his son's autonomy, without placing him in a position where he felt indebted or manipulated. It's crucial to remember, parenting is a choice we make out of love, not a debt that demands repayment. Your children do not owe you anything for the care you provided as they grew. Parenting, in its purest form, is an act of unconditional love, not an investment with the expectation of returns. When we start seeing our children as individuals with their own lives, it becomes much easier to cultivate a relationship rooted in mutual respect rather than obligation. By removing this phrase from your vocabulary, you can foster a healthier dynamic between you and your children, one built on respect, understanding, and genuine connection. It's never too late to change the way we communicate and, in turn, transform the relationships that mean the most to us. So next time you feel that old phrase bubbling up inside you, take a deep breath, pause, and find a way to express your feelings without the weight of expectation. You might just find that it leads to a more meaningful and loving connection with your children than you ever thought possible. Toxic phrase 2. Your spouse is turning you against me. This is the kind of phrase that, once uttered, can permanently sever the bond between you and your children. It's one of those accusations that family relationship experts warn against with great urgency because it's nothing less than poison to the delicate fabric of familial relationships. When you claim that your child's spouse is manipulating them against you, you're not simply attacking their partner. You're attacking their ability to think for themselves, their judgment, and their autonomy. You're telling them that their ability to choose and prioritize the person they love over their parent is something to be questioned, undermining their sense of independence and emotional integrity. Dr. James Wilson, the director of the Family Systems Institute, explains it perfectly when he says, "This statement forces adult children to choose between loyalty to their parent or their spouse, a no-win situation that creates extreme stress. Repeatedly forcing this choice will inevitably damage or destroy the parent-child relationship." That's the cold, hard truth. It's not just a passing comment. It's a trap that makes children feel torn between two people they love, two people they want to please, creating a painful rift that festers over time. How could anyone possibly navigate that without feeling utterly overwhelmed and emotionally drained? I think about Barbara, a woman who suffered because of her own words. She missed holidays, birthdays, and the birth of her first grandchild, all because of the deep rift caused by this toxic phrase. Imagine how much heartache that must have caused. How much regret. It took professional counseling and an incredibly heartfelt apology to begin to repair the damage. She had to humble herself, apologize to her son, and make amends with her daughter-in-law before any healing could even start. And even then, the road to rebuilding trust was long and difficult. But what stands out to me is how Barbara didn't just apologize, she made a conscious effort to change. She decided to support her son's marriage, to prioritize their relationship rather than undermine it. That took courage and a deep commitment to healing. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. If you find yourself thinking about saying something like this, take a moment to reflect on the consequences. Instead of placing blame on your child's spouse, a much more loving and constructive approach would be, "I value both of you so much. I'm still learning the best ways to be supportive of my family. Could we find more opportunities to connect that work well for everyone?" This kind of statement is so much more than a diplomatic gesture. It's an acknowledgement that you respect their partnership and that your child's marriage is a priority. It's an invitation to communicate, to grow together, and to embrace change with open arms. It allows space for mutual understanding without undermining anyone. In the end, it's not about being right. It's about being loving, respectful, and thoughtful, understanding that your child has grown and that their family, every part of it, deserves your support and care. The healing begins the moment you choose love and respect over control and blame. Toxic phrase 3. In my day, we did things differently. This phrase may seem innocuous on the surface, but it often carries a weight far heavier than intended. Dr. Sophia Chen, a respected professor of intergenerational studies at Boston University, sheds light on the unintended consequences of such phrases. She wisely observes, when elderly parents frequently reference their day, they're unintentionally creating distance. This phrase positions them as critics rather than allies, particularly when discussing parenting, careers, or lifestyle choices. And how true that is. It's easy to forget how deeply words can wound, especially when the intention behind them is rooted in love and the desire to help. Take Timothy, a 74-year-old grandfather from Nashville, as an example. Timothy, like many of us, had spent decades nurturing a particular worldview. His intentions were pure. He wanted to help his daughter navigate the complexities of modern parenthood. But, oh, how many times did he unknowingly build a wall between them with phrases like, "In my day, we didn't have all these complicated safety rules," or, "In my day, children respected their parents." Timothy couldn't understand why his daughter became defensive every time he shared his thoughts on childcare. In his heart, he was offering what he believed to be valuable advice. But to his daughter, those words felt like a judgment of her every choice as a mother. And honestly, can we blame her? It's hard not to feel like your every decision is under a microscope when someone you love starts comparing your day to the present. It's not just the advice. It's the sense that your methods, your struggles, and your ways of doing things are somehow inferior. Timothy's daughter didn't need his approval. She needed his understanding. She didn't need correction. She needed support. This scenario, unfortunately, plays out far too often in families, where older generations unintentionally push away the very people they want to help. But the story doesn't end there, and here's the beautiful part. Timothy, after realizing the growing tension between him and his daughter, did something remarkable. He shifted his approach. Rather than emphasizing how things were better back in the day, he took a step back and asked questions, genuinely seeking to understand his daughter's perspective on modern parenting techniques. It was a vulnerable and brave shift for him. Instead of speaking from a place of authority, he started from a place of curiosity. "I'm curious," he began. "Why do you approach parenting this way? I'd love to learn more about your perspective. Do you see the difference here?" Timothy wasn't lecturing. He was opening a dialogue. He wasn't offering advice as a commandment. He was offering it as an option. And it worked. Slowly, the walls between him and his daughter began to crumble. They could now talk, laugh, and sometimes even blend the old with the new. His daughter started to occasionally incorporate some of his traditional wisdom, but only because she felt respected and understood, not criticized. If you find yourself in a similar position, I encourage you to try a different approach. Rather than framing your experience as the right way, try saying something like, "I'm interested in understanding how you approach this. Would it be helpful to hear what worked for me when you were growing up?" This simple shift in tone changes everything. It makes your experience feel like an option, not an ultimatum. It doesn't impose, it invites. And here's the real takeaway. Connection should always be the goal, not correction. When we respect the decisions of our adult children, they are far more likely to seek our guidance. It's not about giving unsolicited advice or reminiscing about how much better things were in the past. It's about fostering mutual understanding, compassion, and support. When we honor their choices, even when they differ from our own, we create space for connection that lasts. And that is the kind of bond we should all be striving for. Toxic phrase 4, "You never visit or call me." There is something deeply painful about the feeling of being ignored or forgotten by the people you love, and in moments of loneliness, those emotions can boil over, making it seem like your loved ones have completely abandoned you. The sting of isolation can lead us to make sweeping statements like, "You never visit or call me," which may feel like the only way to express our frustration, but these words, while emotionally charged, can be devastating to our relationships. They can cloud the truth and create barriers between us and those we need most. Relationship counselors are quick to warn against using these absolute terms. When we say never or always, we are not only distorting reality, but we are also inviting defensiveness. We may feel that our loved ones aren't doing enough, but to them, this can feel like an unfair accusation, one that makes them feel like they are constantly falling short. And as Dr. Michael Ramirez, a renowned family psychologist, points out, statements like, "You never visit," create a no-win scenario. Even if they visited last month, the parent has declared this insufficient. This creates resentment and anxiety around future interactions. Can you imagine the weight that is placed on your children? They may begin to dread any contact, knowing that no matter how much they try, it will never be enough. Let me share the story of Evelyn, a 70-year-old widow from Chicago, whose heart-wrenching loneliness led her to frequently tell her daughter, "You never call me, and I haven't heard from you in ages." Her daughter, despite trying to be there for her mother, began feeling overwhelmed and helpless because these statements weren't based on the reality of their communication. They had spoken just the week before. But Evelyn couldn't see that. Her heart, in its aching need for connection, was telling her a different story, one that was shaped by the pain of being alone for so long. It wasn't until Evelyn's close friend suggested something life-changing, keeping a journal of her interactions, that the truth began to reveal itself. Evelyn was astonished. She discovered that her daughter had reached out 2 to 3 times a week. Calls, texts, even social media messages. It was clear her daughter was trying, but Evelyn's perception was clouded by her expectations and sense of isolation. This moment of realization was profound. Through therapy, Evelyn began to understand how her loneliness had distorted her perception of reality, making her overlook the genuine efforts of her daughter. With guidance, Evelyn learned to embrace gratitude for the connections she did have. Rather than focusing on the moments they didn't share, she started acknowledging and celebrating the times they did. For example, she would say, "I really enjoyed our call last Tuesday," or "Thank you so much for sending those pictures of the kids." These simple words were like a healing balm to her heart, restoring her bond with her daughter and fostering an atmosphere of love and appreciation rather than resentment. If you're feeling similar loneliness, instead of resorting to accusations that only escalate the pain, consider shifting your approach. Express your feelings honestly but gently, without blame. You might say, "I treasure the time we share. Lately, I've been feeling a bit lonely, and I would love to find a regular time to connect that works with your schedule. How can we make that happen?" This type of communication not only lets your loved ones know how you feel, but it also invites them into the conversation with empathy and openness. It opens the door to understanding and deepens the emotional connection without burdening them with guilt or unrealistic demands. It's crucial to remember that your adult children are navigating their own busy lives. They are balancing careers, raising children, managing their responsibilities. Their plates are full. Acknowledging their efforts, instead of fixating on what might feel like deficiencies, can transform your relationship. By offering kindness and appreciation, you create a much healthier, more loving dynamic. You show them that you understand their challenges and that your love for them isn't conditional on the frequency of their visits or calls. This change in perspective is not just liberating for them but for you as well. It frees you to enjoy the moments you have with them without the heavy burden of unspoken expectations. Toxic phrase 5, "You'll regret it when I'm gone." It's deeply troubling when you hear someone use their mortality as a tool to manipulate or guilt others into action. You may think that invoking the fear of death will get the attention you crave, but in reality, it's a dangerous path that ultimately pushes people, especially your children, away. This phrase, "You'll regret it when I'm gone," is a perfect storm of guilt, manipulation, and fear, and unfortunately, it only creates emotional damage. It has the potential to fracture the relationship between you and your loved ones in ways that might feel irreversible. Experts have spoken out about the destructive nature of this approach. Dr. Elizabeth Parker, a respected gerontologist and family counselor at the University of Michigan, sheds light on the emotional cost of using such phrases. She explains, when elderly parents invoke their mortality as a threat, they're creating a traumatic association around their eventual passing rather than motivating more connection. These statements often trigger avoidance as adult children attempt to escape the emotional manipulation. It's heartbreaking, really. What should be a final act of love and guidance becomes a tool of control, forcing adult children to shoulder not only the inevitable grief of losing a parent, but the crushing weight of guilt that comes with it. Think about Robert, a 78-year-old grandfather from Denver, whose words echoed through his family's gatherings. Whenever his children couldn't attend a family event or disagreed with his opinions, he'd say, "Well, someday I'll be gone and you'll wish you had listened to me," or, "You'll regret not spending more time with me when I'm dead." What Robert didn't realize was that this constant emotional blackmail took its toll on his family. His children began to dread his words, slowly withdrawing from him as they struggled to manage the emotional burden he placed on them. They became overwhelmed, not by love or concern for his well-being, but by the manipulative power of his words. I can't help but feel deeply sad when I reflect on stories like Robert's. The desire to be loved, to be valued, and to feel connected to family is a universal need, especially as we age. But we must remember that relationships built on guilt and fear aren't healthy. They are toxic. When we resort to using our mortality as leverage, we risk alienating those we care about most. Instead of leaning on this form of manipulation, why not say something like, "These family moments mean so much to me. I hope we can create more memories together in the coming months." It's a much gentler, kinder way to express the longing for connection without making anyone feel obligated out of fear. The truth is, the best relationships are founded on mutual respect, understanding, and love, not on guilt or fear. Your children should want to spend time with you because they love you, because they cherish your company, and because they want to build lasting memories together, not because they're terrified of the regrets that might haunt them later. So let's shift away from fear and manipulation, and let's nurture the bonds that are based on trust, respect, and love. After all, these are the connections that will truly stand the test of time. The hidden danger of these phrases. It's heartbreaking to realize how many well-meaning parents unknowingly inflict emotional harm with just a few words. These 5 phrases, often used in everyday conversation, may seem harmless or even loving at first glance, but their underlying effects can be deeply damaging. What makes them so insidious is their commonality. They slip off the tongue so naturally that many elderly parents, who often use them, don't even realize the harm they cause. They believe, in their hearts, that they are simply expressing genuine concerns or trying to make conversation. They don't see the hurt they're creating, and perhaps that's the most painful part of it. These parents often think they are speaking from a place of love, but what they don't realize is that their words are pushing their children away, bit by bit. The disturbing truth behind these seemingly innocent phrases is backed by extensive research in neuroscience. Harvard Medical School conducted studies that revealed the very real physiological effects of these words. Dr. Ephraim Jonathan Hayes, a leading expert, explains it in the starkest terms. When people hear these types of accusatory or manipulative statements from loved ones, their brains react as if they are facing a physical threat. It triggers a stress response, just like if they were in danger. Over time, this constant exposure to emotional pressure creates a deep-seated need to avoid the source of that stress. In other words, the person on the receiving end of these phrases begins to associate their parent with emotional pain, leading them to pull away. It's not that they don't care anymore. They are simply reacting to the deep emotional distress caused by those toxic words. This pattern of withdrawal isn't something the adult children consciously choose. It's simply a survival mechanism. The emotional toll of hearing these phrases builds over time, and eventually, it becomes too overwhelming to bear. This isn't about abandoning parents. This is about responding to an invisible emotional weight that they can't carry any longer. And that, to me, is the real tragedy here. These parents are often left wondering why their children don't come around as much, never realizing that the very words they've used to express care have built a wall that's almost impossible to break down. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But there is hope, and that's the silver lining. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward healing, toward mending the invisible rifts that have formed in your relationships. Yes, it will take effort, real, conscious effort, but it's worth it. The good news is that you can start making changes today. By deliberately replacing these damaging phrases with healthier alternatives, you can begin the process of rebuilding those strained relationships. It won't be easy. Change never is. But as someone who's seen this transformation in families before, I can tell you that the rewards are more than worth it. Here's a 3-step approach that family therapists recommend for breaking free from these damaging communication habits. 1. Practice self-awareness. This is where the journey starts. Start paying attention to the words you use, especially when you feel the urge to speak these toxic phrases. What's the emotion behind it? Are you feeling lonely, unappreciated, or fearful? By identifying the need behind the emotion, you can express it more directly and with greater empathy. It's about becoming aware of your emotional triggers and learning to take control of them instead of letting them control you. 2. Pause before speaking. I can't stress enough how powerful a simple pause can be. The next time you feel the impulse to say something accusatory or guilt-laden, stop. Take a breath. Give yourself a moment of reflection. It may feel awkward at first, but I promise you, this simple act of pausing and choosing your words carefully will gradually become a natural part of your communication. 3. Express your feelings and needs directly. Instead of resorting to phrases like, "You never visit me," which places blame, try saying something like, "I've been feeling lonely lately, and I'd love to spend more time with you." This way, you're still communicating the same need for connection, but in a way that invites understanding rather than triggering guilt or defensiveness. It's about being vulnerable in a healthy way, allowing your feelings to be heard without making the other person feel responsible for your emotions. This was the exact transformation Patricia, a 75-year-old grandmother from Boston, went through. 4 months, her relationship with her 3 adult children was strained. She had been using phrases that were pushing them away, but she never realized it. But when Patricia took it upon herself to change her communication style, the results were nothing short of remarkable. Her children, initially skeptical of her efforts, slowly began to see the genuine love and care in her new approach. As time went on, the distance between them started to shrink. 6 months later, Patricia's daughter surprised her by suggesting they go on a weekend trip together, something that would have been unimaginable before. Patricia's reflection says it all. "It wasn't that my children didn't love me, they just couldn't handle the emotional burden of how I communicated with them." Building stronger bonds moving forward. Now that you know the dangers of these toxic phrases, let's focus on the steps you can take to foster healthier, more supportive relationships with your adult children. The good news is that it's possible to strengthen your bonds and nurture them into something more positive and fulfilling. It starts with small, intentional steps. 1. Express appreciation regularly. It's easy to fall into the trap of focusing on what's missing, what your children aren't doing. Instead, practice acknowledging and appreciating the ways they do show up for you. It's not just about the grand gestures. It's about recognizing the everyday moments when they reach out, even if it's just to say hello. This shift in focus will make all the difference. 2. Respect boundaries. As much as you want to feel connected with your children, you must also recognize that they have their own lives, responsibilities, and priorities. Show a genuine interest in their lives, but avoid putting them in the position where they feel obligated to prioritize you above all else. This mutual respect will create a healthier, more balanced relationship. 3. Make interactions enjoyable. Be the parent that your children want to talk to, not the one they feel obligated to check in on. Share positive news, ask about their interests, and be genuinely curious about their lives. When you make conversations light-hearted and enjoyable, your children will look forward to them rather than dread them. 4. Offer support without judgment. Your children will need advice and assistance from time to time. Be there for them, but without judgment. Respect their decisions, even if they don't align with your own. Offering unconditional support shows that you're on their side, not trying to control them. 5. Create new traditions. It's tempting to cling to old traditions that may no longer fit the current circumstances, but change is a natural part of life. Collaborate with your children on creating new traditions that work for everyone. This will not only keep your relationships fresh and relevant, but will also help you adapt to the changing dynamics of your family. By incorporating these positive strategies and consciously eliminating toxic phrases from your communication, you will foster a family environment built on mutual respect, love, and understanding. It's not about perfecting your communication overnight. It's about making steady, meaningful changes that will lead to stronger, more fulfilling bonds with your loved ones. It's never too late to start. Take the first step today and watch your relationships flourish. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you've gained valuable insights into the toxic phrases that can damage relationships with your adult children, and how making small changes in the way we communicate can lead to deeper, more meaningful connections. So, what have you learned so far? Is there one thing you'll take with you and start practicing in your own life? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave a comment below and let me know what resonated with you the most. If you liked this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content that helps you build stronger relationships and live your best life. Remember, it's never too late to make positive changes in your communication. Let's work together to create healthier, more loving bonds with our families.